Got Firestorm, Corbo, Mungo Parker, Internet Explorer. Team 2, we've got Slayer, Xenophon of Athens, Kalmia, and Highball. Welcome to Arroyo. It is the wonderful donut map that people love, although if you look at it from just the right angle from up top, it does resemble a skull. So both got sweet and spooky on this. Seeing the teams doing their initial deployments now as we get ready for the drop-in. Typically with this matchup, you will see a whole bunch of mass drivers and 450 exchanged up high from the B and C points. And then there's a lot of close quarters fighting that takes place underneath the map. Very good to use the flip map tool when taking place in that, as it manages to help your perspective quite a bit, since looking at the map from below can be a little bit disorienting. That Annis in the Team 1 blue trunks here have locked in. OSP is just finishing off their final deployment 20 seconds to go. Let's get this match on. We'll go through the fleets as soon as they drop in and then do a little discussion about some of the exchanges that will happen. Alrighty, deployment cam has us following in an Axford, the 12 Duns here from the cam fleet. Seeing some 450 on the front along with a 120 sidearm. Seeing a drive flare 3x3 grid there. We'll cover that OSP fleet in a second. That's going to be something. Anyways, Corbeau over here. Pretty standard kind of command. Axford, close quarters, aggressive damage dealer. Whole bunch of guns facing the front direction. We got a spyglass freak down below with looks like some missiles and sarissas, and then another one offset slightly, so trying to go for that kind of area coverage. Let's take a look. Firestorm bringing in triple destroyers here with torpedo launchers on them as well, deployed in a line formation. Going to be interesting to see how that will commit. Has defenders, only one defender on the chin with Stonewall on the sides, possibly an older fleet. We'll see. An Explorer coming in with 2 Mark 64 toting 250 spewing CLs here. Joining them, they have a little jammer Corvette that also has bullseye for that good lock range at 9 kilometers. Managing to squeak into this fleet a beam destroyer with a missile launcher on top, 6 torpedoes in the back pocket for this thing, along with a jammer. So going very cost effective on these assets. Mungo Parker rounding out the team with the cap fleet. Beam destroyer heading towards the D point here, or B point here rather, sorry. Along with a Corvette and a Sprinter moving towards the E point there, capping their naturals. They've got a couple Sprinters and whatnot scattered around the map. Seeing some of these Mark 62 bricks coming out to play that we saw earlier, so that's going to be an interesting little frigate tech here. A lot of firepower being able to throw from that, although not always the best against some of the more armored assets. We've been seeing a lot more monitors lately. Of monitors and whatnot. A dubious creature has been spotted. The sound of drums from Mungo Parker. Quad hang-up frigate going along the bottom of the map here. Going to try and shut down some of the enemy's more capital assets there, as they are limited to the CR-10 unless they are a Ocello. And guess what? OSP does not have an Ocello. Let's go through their fleets real quick here. Mass Driver from Kalmia. Bulker with 3 barrels of goodness. We got a Bloodhound tug and an early warning tug there, able to spot things. Multi-mission tug or 2 to round it out, along with a couple of rocket tugs and a couple of rocket shuttles and T-20 shuttles as well. So nice little mixture of cap fleet there, going to show that you can still bring some offensive assets effective against bigger ships like the bulk freighter here. Very cost-effective tool. Said Highball has a quintet, I believe is the term, of C90 and T30 monitors here, running them in a blob. So nasty little bricks there to pick a fight. Slayer bringing out these dual C65 450 spewing bulk freighters, and then just rounding it out with a couple of shuttles around the map just for caps and stuff. Minimal investment, has double Pavis and then a T20. Interestingly, double Pavis along the top side there, really trying to present that point defense side to somebody and then not have the T20 on the bottom get blown out by missiles. And then lastly, Xenophon of Athens, bringing in, let's see, a weird little formation here. So 3x3, although some of these are actually shuttles here with jamming. Interesting little tech piece. But yeah, this is a tug swarm primarily. Bunch of NLS-2 launchers who have a little bit of point defense, but primarily trying to throw a whole bunch of missiles illuminated. So most likely going to be squales. Take a look as the battle space develops. B point goes into the hands of ANS, C point into the hands of OSP, E point OSP, and D point going to be ANS. OSP is a little bit faster. Their shuttles at flank speed are able to get the caps sooner, putting them at a slight points lead. That said, ANS does not currently have anything covering. Oh, no, wait. Hold on a second. OSP does not have anything covering. ANS managed to get the A cap here fairly uncontested, trying to hit a couple of bombshells or other things into them, but mass drivers, yeah, these are not going to get killed in time. A cap will go to the ANS here. Am I cutting in and out? Hang on a second. Let me check my connection. That's weird. All right. Well, if I'm cutting in and out, I am sorry about that. You might just get a little bit of staticky stuff. As it were, kind of in one of the common stack-up spots, that Tug Swarm has parked itself, waiting to see how the space develops and where they can push from there. Monitor Blob heading into the trenches here. Everyone loves Arroyo for the trenches. They are very fun to fight in, giving these kind of narrow passageways that you're able to throw torpedoes and some zappy beams down. Zero gun plotting centers on the MD liner. Yeah, so accuracy is going to suffer a little bit. Gun plotting center is a small investment that can definitely make a difference, since every missed shot is a lot of missed damage. I'm just seeing the A point here. Yep, just mass drivers whizzing by here. Some of them hitting, some of them missing. Gun plotting center can make that difference, especially when you get high track quality from a Bloodhound locked on target. So yeah, ANS does secure a 3-point cap versus the OSP's 2-pointer. OSP now trying to decide how they want to play. OSP expecting a bunch of beam destroyers, but the question is, will they realize that there is a committed push like this? Now we see the first beam of the game, a Xenophon of Athens. Yep, Jammer, little, what do you call this? Jammer Creature, that's what I'm going to settle on. Yeah, Jammer Creature getting hit by RPF and beams as now the Tug Swarm presents itself and gets hit by another beam. Zap, zap. It's going to be some serious damage here, as that's going to bleed out at least 2 assets, I would say, since the beam is fairly confident to just battle short and hold its target here. So they are not doing so right now, instead electing to supply some jamming. So jamming from both sides going down here. Flip the map over and take a look at this. So yeah, just the initial opening salvos here. CLs are doing pretty decent at cleaning up some of these things here with their RPF rounds. RPF not the best, but now they switch over to HE from a couple targets. Oh, never mind. That HE coming from the Axford down low. Missile strike is out. These are, yep, although the name Tempest, we call these squalls or squales. Squales is the term, yes. A combination of squall and gale. And it's not distracting entities are. Yep, so we're going to see some missiles go off here. Yep, a couple of those going to smack into the front side of that destroyer, taking out its main primary weapon. Most of them going after the chaff cloud. Still does disarm the destroyer for a moment. That is a good engagement there. Ooh, actually, all of those jammings now being focused on the active decoy, and they're firing on target, mistaken it now as they quickly correct over to the chaff cloud, it looks like. They're not able to tell which one is the actual track. Have to prioritize your things there. It's a funny little exchange going off. Anyways, ANS now equalizing the point lead as they're catching up thanks to their 3 cap. A point normally is contested by either a massive amount of 100 mil or a beam. And in this case, we just saw OSP did not counter it correctly. So they're firing off their second squale volley, going towards, looks like Inner Explorers trifecta down here. All these appear to be targeted on their jamming ship. Oh, the saw is not good right now. Illumination cuts out. Did they battle short? Bunch of these going to get knocked out by PD or just otherwise miss. Boom. Yep. Fortunately, forgot to do battle short there, or they just got taken out by mass fire. So yeah, Tug Swarm not finding a fight they want to pick here, as Internet Explorer able to throw in some RPF rounds. Beam's going to go and destroy a lot of those. Yeah, 450 fire, not doing the most, but Mark 62 is now in range to contribute RPF rounds into those tugs. So it's unfortunate for the Tug Swarm's success. Monitor Blob pushing up through the trench now, finding some action on the A point. They're shredding through one of those corvettes that just needs to go down as we say that. Yeah, Monitor Ball is moving itself up, but there's a trifecta of beam destroyers that have been kept in reserve for the moment, not showing themselves. ANS has managed to get a sort of early advantage cemented. The question is, will they be put back here at all? Seeing, again, Inner Explorer deflecting more missiles here from the incoming volleys. I believe there's some Sarissa fire going off there from one of these frigates down low. Yeah, interesting little asset this. I kind of like it. Spyglass, you keep situational awareness, missile package, and then Sarissa just to make missile players upsetty spaghetti. Taking a look around as things develop more. So, OSP finding ways to push up, but still, that Tug Swarm heavily depleted on missiles here, and now just kind of struggling to get back into cover. They've got 1 salvo left, and then that's basically it. Actually, a half salvo, given that these are pairs of MLS-2 launchers, and they've only got 4 missiles apiece left. So yeah, a lot of the initial firepower there being deflected. would not call them completely down and out since they do still have nose guns, but most of their punch comes from being able to disable someone with missiles and then knock them out with some 250 fire. Internet Explorer under invested on DC. Let's take a look here. Seeing a bit of stuff here provided. So reinforced, auxiliary steering, some small DCs. Yeah, just triple small DC here. So not the most for a voxel, but voxels also can struggle getting a bunch of DC. So this is enough to keep the ship alive for the moment. Tug now being cleaned up here by some RPF rounds has wandered into the range of those CLs. They love to hunt these small ships. See now on the other side here, EO Seeker swirl missiles, size 3 hybrids being fired off towards a multi-mission tug here, which might be in for a very bad time. Chaff will not help you. You need AMMs trying to jam these incoming, and we might see a devastating missile strike here. We're going to find out. AMMs are out. Oh, no, size 2 missiles are out in return. Question is, are the AMMs good or not? There they go. Going to pop into one, although not enough to kill the other one, and that is going to be a big missile strike into that. Yeah, takes out the berthing and does pretty good damage to all the other systems. Recoverable, the reinforced drive eating quite a bit of that, so the Huntress is knocked out for the moment. Means that these Axe CMDs might not actually detect this ship. Yeah, it is no longer detected. CMD will not validate here, and the Sarissa is going to do well along with some AMMs. So exchange of those scouting assets on the outside there. Monitor ball continues to push towards the D point here. Now it's going to wander around the corner. Beam destroyers are not in position to counter this, although they are looking towards the lower side of the map, trying to figure out what they want to jump on here. A lot of fast-moving firepower, or sorry, fast-killing firepower. Fast-moving is maybe an overstatement. These are Dragonfly destroyers, so they will turn on a dime, but unfortunately they are limited to, I believe it's 18 meters a second without flanking. A point is now being secured by the OSP, who have invested one of their little T-20 shuttles, and there is no beam destroyer currently in position to shoot it, so they can rotate very quickly. OSP choosing to hold up quickly and kind of dive out of the trench now, looking for anything topside that they could pick a fight with. Their monitor ball trying to not get themselves jumped by a beam or torpedo ship waiting in lurk positions. Couple of torpedoes fired out towards the A point to kill off that shuttle, and unfortunately going to be deflected by the Pavis, still being very good at its job. That said, the heavy cruiser over here for the ANS is going to come around the corner and start laying into that shuttle with its Mark 62s. It goes to show what you can do when you put a bunch of ammo elevators onto these things. We got, what's that, 5 ammo elevators and then 4 Mark 62s. That is a lot of DACA. That said, they are struggling to hit it. I don't believe... No, they should be in range. They've got a lock and stuff. They're just having a little bit of issues since the shuttle is moving itself around evasively. So with all that being said, ACAP has not been resecured by the OSP here, and we're seeing some more torps coming in now. Ooh, little bit of a issue here as that Pavis is not in arc, and we can see torpedo strike right into it just before they manage to cap. That's unfortunate for OSP. Corbeau electing to, in this case, not use so much RPF, I'm betting, because they wanted to go for the kill shot proper. RPF for the 120 does not do the most damage. It still can chip away at things and then try and bring the enemy low, but typically want to see that 120 HE hits to proper kill something. Yeah. These guys, I think they were believing that it had been already sandbagged a bit by missile strike or other damaging assets. Yeah. And then, so ANS holding their 3 cap here for the moment, starting to push underneath as that kind of tug ball gets pushed off now. More RPF rounds sailing in from Internet Explorer, who is on the hunt, knowing that most of these tugs here have been wounded from other shots in before and are probably running low on ammo. That they're trying to get around here now as they're just getting pushed in. Failed B cap going on right now. Yeah, that is correct. We are seeing a shuttle trying to go towards the B point here. ANS holding their 3 caps and doing a good job of it as OSP is trying to get themselves back into this. That Mark 62 brick just delivering a bunch of fire into the shuttle. Yeah, that's not going to go very well for it. It's just going to get pounded here at this close range. Still, C90s and T30s going to fire in response from the big monitor ball, assuming that they can keep it on track. It goes outside of their radar range and they are going to lose it. A couple of missiles down below. Some more of those EO swirls going after the tug swarm. OSP not having the best of luck right now, really. Those 450 bulkers trying to move themselves into position, but just with the way that the game has kind of played out, they don't have a great target right now. ANS electing to stack towards the lower side and OSP kind of stacking up towards high and just never having a fight on the high side, instead of electing to punch through that tug swarm and then just get value from there. BCAP is still technically alive. And we're going to watch as these Yeah, this beam destroyer is going to come around the corner and then just zap them. Ooh, hardened skin value. Ah, so in this case, we're seeing hardened skin size 3 hybrids. That explains why they were able to eat so many AMMs earlier on. Yeah, interesting little breakpoint there. Hardened skin size 3 hybrid has exactly 80 hit points, and a grazer does 75, meaning that you will not be able to kill it with a single razor. So it's more of these getting launched out here. Also, that little dubious creature, the quad hang-up ship, which I failed to click on here, but there we are. Quad hang-ups, unfortunately, they have been turned off here for the moment since they are cycling, so they could battle short again to isolate this area. Goes to show, without a cello, you are very vulnerable to hang-ups in even the best of circumstances, since the CR10 is not the strongest of antennas. Just having enough voices yelling nonsense over the radio will do hell for your general ship's intelligence and communications. So seeing 2 grazers cook off there, firing into that hybrid before it can actually get close. So ball PD is still pretty good. They are holding on here, but at the same time, they're not exactly in a position to cap anything. They're going to come around this corner into the D point, and then there's going to be 3 beam destroyers waiting for them with torpedoes and big old spinal beam turrets. I guess it's not really a turret, but it's got a little bit of sway. We're just going to pretend I didn't say that and go on from there. Haha. Was double focus particle accelerator, pushing these things kill range to basically their maximum distance against something like a tug, which has next to no damage reduction. We're going to watch as Xeno probably comes around the corner here, taking a little bit of fire, and then just gets shredded. Over on the A point, Overwatch is kind of happening here with the 450 Bulkers exchanging fire with that heavy cruiser. Heavy cruiser has its nose towards them and is a very sleek target, moving itself pretty well at this distance. Has a Raider drive, Dragonfly, and Whiplash, so triple drive on this thing, going for that maximum maneuverability. More missiles being launched out as well towards A point to ward off any intruders. We do see one of Mungo Parker's corvettes get cleaned up here by a little shuttle with T-20s. Going to be that. The EO Seeker is going to shoot into a dead ship as a actual living shuttle is now moving in. That said, ANS has a 4 cap. OSP has 1. That is not a position you want to be in. Monitor Ball is kind of developing the battle space around the B point as they try and push up. Not really too much that this beam destroyer is going to be able to do against that much firepower. It might be able to get 1, possibly 2 of them, seeing the frigate next to it just eating all of the 100 mil and 600 mil fire. So beam destroyer gets itself locked onto target. It will probably be able to cook 1 before ultimately going down. Around the D side, though, speaking of other destroyers, we are watching this tug ball again move onto the point here and trying to get there. Yeah. Yep, there's the first beam, just barely managing to miss and then walking its way onto target. Others surely to follow. Yeah, this is not good for the OSP side. They are losing their tug ball. Beams out, just cooking through one of them. Now 250 fire following in from the CLs down below who have doubled back and just really pinched in this tug ball. I feel like these are kind of like old school builds. Like, you don't typically see triple beam destroyer deployed in formation like this. Very reminiscent of one of Starter Fleet's Task Force Ash, although lacking in the jamming corvette that comes along with that. Then we used to also see a big old tug swarm back before the C-53 got nerfed and then adjusted accordingly because it was, well, suitably overpowered. Tugs also had quite a bit more going for them, extra speed and recycle time buff. That said, now, old school is not the new school, as you're just seeing them now get taken apart piece by piece. So that is going to be a tug ball thoroughly dead. ANS does lose the A point here as a capper managed to get onto it. Unfortunately, the CH not able to deliver the knockup blow that needed before that could happen. Still, though, not in the best of positions militarily, losing an entire fleet here. Mungo Parker has bled a couple of their assets, but most of the ANS team is still intact versus the OSP, which is functionally down to fleet now. Xeno's just going to get cleaned up here. Yeah, beam destroyers do not play when you get within that 6-kilometer range. A bit of an exchange over towards the C point side as we're seeing a bunch of AMMs and some torpedoes being fired out here against a tug. Tug in turn firing its ACT CMD size 2s, trying to exchange a little bit of this kind of, I call these like sort of situational awareness, but also countercap assets. You see if these torps have the range. ACT Wake is locked onto, looks like originally the chaff, but now correcting itself over and locking onto the tug. That's going to be a torp hit there. Wham, right into the drive section in the middle. Second torp is going to miss, so immobilize the target for now. Let's see if there's a follow-up torp strike. There is. Watch these ones scream in and unfortunately get seduced by chaff. Swing and a miss over there. Over on the A point, we're watching a shuttle get cleaned up now. Internet Explorer doing what you should be doing with CLs, just hunting around the map, finding anything that weighs less than you and punching it out. RPF rounds are very good for catching targets, so you can effectively slow them down, taking out their thrusters, possibly damaging their drive, and then HE follow-up just kills anything. Beam destroyers over here, just guarding D point. I believe that, yep, that's the last of Xeno's ships. Certainly one of the games of all time, they're saying. Yep, so multi-mission tug, now exchanging fire near the D side, watching as these missiles go off against one of the Mark 62 bricks, and then there's a little just Defender, Chaff, and Mark 62 Corvette to go along with it, providing point defense. Should be able to clean most of these up. They're not focused on it, so they will get easy target hits. Yep, that is going to be a cleanup, and then retaliation. You will have 5 Mark 62s against a C-30. Now, I'm not sure exactly how the numbers work out, but I think the 2 is better than 1, so probably see that thing get taken out here shortly. OSP does manage the decap, although that beam destroyer is still lurking nearby. One of their monitors is pretty thoroughly cooked here. Mass driver liner not rolled to face them. All right, let's take a look. Where did that mass driver liner end up? So we see it has gone high over the rocks here. It's not quite on target. One trick you can do is if you suspect there's an area, you can set your ship to hold fire and then pause fire on a position. Gets your guns all nicely lined up for it, although we're not seeing that here. Possibly they don't know exactly where that beam destroyer is, or they just haven't paid attention to the developing battle space and adjusted their assets accordingly. It was a 450 fire being ready to be exchanged against those light cruisers down here. However, mass jamming is hitting those bulkers here as we're watching them just get shredded by 250 into the broadside. Seeing more of the guns go offline. CIC is out. A lot of restores on these, don't get me wrong, but they are experiencing power issues and just volume of fire is doing its work. Axford also starting to contribute with its 450 guns. So yeah, ANS farming up and really just being able to punch down against lesser assets here. They've consistently isolated fleets and been able to take them out, as we saw with the Tug Swarm initially, and now we're seeing it happen to the 450 bulkers here. OSP does currently hold the cap lead, although that's not saying too much as they are falling pretty far behind in terms of fleet power. Just seeing more and more of their stuff getting bled out. ANS can quickly resecure a cap and put themselves into a lead here. Multi-mission tug getting pretty peppered over on the D side, although not knocked out. RPF not really doing the best job there. Needs to use that HE. A-side beams come into play here now. Yeah, here we go. Just a whole bunch of beam fire along with that 250 and 450 in one of these bulkers. This thing will go down momentarily. I'm just waiting for Firestorm to come around this corner, hit battle short, and then cook both of these. Just, yeah, there's nothing you can really do to stop them at this stage. You can't run. You can't hide. Beam destroyer arrives. Watching as this thing slowly gets peeled apart.
Yeah, OSP's running out of gas real fast, and ANS is basically fresh aside from some lost scouting assets.
Yeah. Seeing over on Seaside, one of the multi-mission tug versus sort of Spyglass scouter ship here. Spyglass frigate does win this. The missiles were good enough to get through and cook off that reactor there. So that means that there's basically nothing stopping OSP. Or no, there's nothing stopping ANS from getting C point here, rather. Calmy has a T-20 shuttle nearby, but that's not going to do it. We see now one of the 450 bulkers just getting torched. Yeah, that's like 3 fleets worth of firepower there, just gutting them. Watch this, the other 450 bulker desperately trying to run away. It has rolled the wrong direction, not even having a fire order here. Yep. That's named Blast from the Past. All right. Over on B side, we're going to see a beam destroyer here getting shot up a little bit by one of Highball's C90 T30 monitors. That said, as soon as they fix that beam, they will be able to fire in return. Just as I say that now, they fire off and, yep, cooking into that monitor. Managing to miss the better part of the center hull, only cooking off the antenna there, so very lucky for the monitor, but nothing stopping them from just repairing and doing that again. This stage, ANS should be fairly confident just pushing forwards. We're watching as Slayer's last bulk freighter here, their last ship in the game, just getting peppered by all of these shots here from these Vauxhalls. Beam destroyers kind of cruising their way forwards. Not rolled exactly the right direction they want to be, but now starting to make their way into the proper arc. And then as soon as they're on target, this 450 bulker will die. Monitor was just firing grape. Ah, okay, that one might have been it. Slight ammunition issue can sometimes happen when you have a multi-roll turret like the T-30. Sometimes it will swap over to grape to try and shoot at incoming missiles and really mess with you. You can counter that by setting your point to defense turrets to only fire the dedicated ones. That way you don't fire grape by accident. Still, beam turret over here from Mungo Parker on the B side is knocked out, so we're just going to watch as this destroyer gets slowly peppered into from both sides by these C90 T30 monitors. Still firing grape from up above. That is kind of funny. Seeing some HE rounds now cruising into it. Destroyer's going to try and limp its way onto B. D point is firmly held right now by the ANS. They're just going to exchange a little bit of fire with this multi-mission tug that's trying to get away. OSP, like we said, kind of running out of gas here. ANS just needs to walk forward and collect their win. As soon as they get onto the A point, there will be nothing really in position to stop them. Monitors are not a bad ship, but against this much ANS, there's not really enough stuff to stop the death ball that they formed. See now, in Explorer already set up to bow tank the incoming fire from those monitors and the mass driver liner, who, if I'm correct, has not really fired many shots this game. Yeah, 85% ammunition remaining, just not really getting a chance to hit anyone. 500mm fracturing blocks, very good against voxels typically, but they've just never presented a target to it up until now. And we see the first mass drivers flying out. One of them does slam into the side here, taking out the berthing as is tradition. Bunch of grape shot being fired in here, trying to clean up the little jamming asset that they have in the middle of this formation. And unfortunately, not really having a good time doing it. They don't really have anything to punch through this jamming. Just looks like they're firing on an early warning track, if I had to guess, just given the inaccuracies. B-side, Mungo Parker does lose the destroyer there, so that is a bit of a tax paid. However, A point goes in the hands of ANS, and what can OSP really do to get themselves back into this game? Once ANS realizes the C cap is uncontested, they'll just move over there, securing themselves a 4-1 lead, and that's pretty much going to be the game, since OSP's front line has more or less disintegrated at this stage. .450 bulk freighter desperately trying to get its damage control back operational. Yep, there's the beam destroyers firing a little bit of their shots while they can, having a bit of a line of fire issue here as they're getting a little bit too close to the rock, but trying to emerge in the closest possible range so that they can deliver the biggest punch. Beams, of course, having fall off. There's a good beam into one of Highball's ships, and we instantly see the front side of that thing fall off. C90 is gone, jammers are gone, and that is just going to make this incredibly easy for the ANS to push into, since they have jamming advantage and OSP does not. Couple of torpedoes going out here from the backside. Hello from the E flank as this Bulker is in range. Okay, so it does still have its point defense active. That could have been a devastating knockout blow. Still, Bulk Freighter trying to get itself operational now. Most of its buffing assets have been taken out. It is without a radar and just kind of relying on its allies. Still very damaged here. Beams are good, and we're watching them now cook apart these monitors. Really, ANS just needs to push at this point and collect their win. And now Corvette moving over towards the C point, preemptively popping active decoys here, expecting there to be sprint mines. Smart moves from the ANS side here. However, they're going to come around the corner and realize that there is no such thing and just collect their free point. Yeah, 4-1 lead will be established. Beam destroyers kind of hanging out here, taking a little bit more fire from these monitors than they really should be. You can, at this stage, just task one monitor per beam destroyer and then just sort it out from there. Flick your battle short on and then worry about that later. Even though they don't have infinite damage anymore, as we like to call it on main, they still hit pretty hard. The PETA here from Highball getting a little bit lightly toasted. Not the best splash there, most of that actually missing. Still, it's going to eat a torpedo strike for its troubles here. All the Pavis in the world apparently cannot stop that reckless torpedo corkscrew. There's the beam follow-up proper right into the center, and we're going to watch as this thing gets cored out. C90 is first to go. Complex taking heavy damage, and then just everything else following. The Hound from Highball has been taken out now as it attempted to turn and flee and was found wanting. There's another beam into PETA at this point. C point cap is ongoing. A 450 Bulker from Slayer is technically alive, trying to contribute some fire, but having a hard time here, constantly bearing to target. Kind of odd because it looks like it should be perfectly on target here. Odd. Beams joined by 250 here. Yeah, is having a problem. Now, I'm fairly certain that the only thing that they're able to spot this fleet with is this early warning tug, and early warning tugs don't have exactly the greatest track quality. So more than likely, those 450 guns are just not having a good fireable track. Yeah. beams cooking off into the PETA here as Highball loses another monitor. Like we said, they're just kind of going to get folded here. 450 fire from Corbeau over here is going to take a big chunk out of this monitor's broadside. I'm going to watch and see as this thing's reactor gets redded out here. Basically, ANS victory at this point. They're just going through the motions here of collecting their win. Was decided a little while ago here as, well, unfortunately, Xeno got their assets kind of scouted out early on and then cleaned up. Tug Swarm is not what it used to be. As Pavis struggles to hit a torpedo that will then find its way home into the ship named Wake. All the 250 fire following that up as the C-90 has been knocked out. 30 also going to go down. Oh, and just for good measure, it's eating a bunch of shots from below. Not that those will really do anything, but it is quite funny to see this ship just get bracketed so. Reactor bloom there of one of the tugs. That was the Bloodhound one specifically. Anyways, Slayer has been identified here as still a ship that is operational. I believe that they fired 1 or 2 rounds before suddenly everyone realized that this ship is not, in fact, dead. That said, ANS will quickly correct that as now we're seeing 250 rounds flying into it, along with some of the grids 450 and 120. Really just everything on display here. OSP realizing the situation, electing to throw in the towel now. See that beam gap. The bulk freighter doesn't exist anymore. There is nothing on the damage control board. Just thrusters. Really just left with Kalmia having a mass driver that is not at all oriented to hit anything. And then Highball has a trifecta of monitors that are alive on technicalities. Will be where we call GG's then. Good fighting.
Head empty, no thoughts. I'm feeling better, but not that much better. Anyways, good games.
Oh, and we end with a reactor bloom in the middle of the map. How lovely. All right. Post game. Anyone have anything to say immediately?
I threw really hard, mostly.
Don't Nebulous sick, kids.
Oh my.
Remember to update my fleets to have lock capability.
Yeah,
Honestly,
OSP
just
didn't really
Bloodhounds
have
and Bridge
the ability
Masters.
to spot their opponents, and that's kind of important. So
Yeah, we had 1 EWR, which was unfortunate.
A little bit lacking in situational awareness there. ANS also brought some nice tools to clean up things. I really liked seeing the corvettes, not the corvettes, the frigates from Corbeau. The nice little mixture of missiles and a Sarissa, and just this kind of like more investment than you typically see for a spyglass offset frigate. Being able to provide some supplementary fire and how that was able to skirmish with the monitors.
Those
not
were
the
in
monitors,
vogue
the
like 3 months
multi-mission.
ago. It's just part of the constant oscillation.
It's a nice little tech piece to see that you don't typically find in the average game. And Firestorm with the literal blast from the past torpedoes coming out here with TLS 3 1,000 point beam destroyers.
I built these frigates about 5 or 6 months ago to fight MMTs and really haven't changed them much since then.
Yeah.
Because they
They
do the
still
job.
function pretty well.
I stole them, although I did change them quite significantly. I think a jammer is much more important than the Sarissa, personally.
Fairly certain these ones have cork and hardened skin.
On torps?
Yeah. I mean, I'll have to check. Like, I changed the configuration based on point count. But the...
Alright, we're getting into individual builds here. And, well, that's very important for us. That's not super important for you, dear viewer. I'd like to, once again, thank Neko for running things. It's been nice letting someone else take point on running these games this weekend. It's been real nice. Yeah, I think that's everything. We have a Discord. That's where these games are being ran out of. There's about 16 people sitting in that voice call right now. if you want to come and participate in these sort of things. We're on the test branch, doing the testing for the game. Of course, some of these games are a little more valuable than others. Go figure. But they're enjoyable and satisfying overall. I hope you enjoyed it. Presumably, if you made it this far, you did. I'll see you in the battle space, dear viewer.